there. I'm going to let you in on what we were talking about. But first, I want you to imagine you're on a trip, with some friends. You go to Las Vegas, right, to visit a casino. And so upon entering, you hit, the tables casually with a predetermined, sum of money that you set aside to play with, right? Once you run out, you're done and you leave, with the group to go and get something to eat. This is an example of healthy gambling, but it is an example we will use to compare behavioral addiction, whereas the story would go differently. In this case, you find yourself unable to stop because you like the excitement of potentially winning money. You go to the ATM multiple times to get cash for chips so that you can, keep up. And, you want to keep playing because you almost feel like a high or, a fork type, right? So unfortunately, this is all too common. A person who exhibits, a compulsion to risk their money would be called, a problem gambler, right? So in turn, it's easy to become singular focused on doing or pursuing this activity despite any roadblocks, or adversities that may try to intervene. So now look at the similarities, with ruminating. When a person is ruminating, it involves repetitive thinking or, dwelling on negative feelings and distress, the causes and the consequences. Compulsive thinking and little self-control because you're stuck in like a negative cycle or the behavior you're assuming, or if you are stay at it, you'll get a different result. Behavioral addictions are part, though, of a group of disorders called process addiction. Common, the addictive behaviors, would be things like those clearinghouse subscriptions or video games or sex or, working your job. These are all marked by a near constant compulsion to take part in a habit or routine that provides comfort or pleasurable feelings, right? So they also share key characteristics, though, with certain mental health disorders like, OCD. Some people do have addictive personalities. Some, though, dismiss this as a perception among people who have, difficulty controlling their use of substances or their behavior. However, addict personalities, are real. So certain people, often, coming from a family marked with, addiction, naturally have more powerful risk. Reward systems even built in their brains, right? Making them more prone to becoming dependent on certain activities to feel happy or functional. So it's hard to cover up your heart, though, with one little Band-Aid, it seems. Now, we know that certain substances immediately impact the brain, its chemistry even, and bind to receptors that provides a sense of euphoria or pleasure. Drug users will sacrifice their finances, their personal relationships and health to experience the joy, even, very short-lived. It gives them often, they're becoming like a reclusive as the habit, strains even their social interactions. So over time, though, drugs can significantly alter the brain to the point where it impairs their judgment, right? Their learning and their decision making. But even cigarettes, or vaping, once one is convinced, that it helps them cope, so to speak, right? But somehow, in reality, it increases your anxiety and a host of health risks. They, too, never equal, a positive result. But a chemical addiction is a chronic disease that causes an individual to have a persistent desire to use despite potentially dangerous consequences. They experience difficulty managing their urges and are often, unable to function daily without the use of a particular substance. Sustained use, leads to needing greater dose to produce the same high, right? So the act of using, though, the substance, it provokes a sort of, I would say, behavioral dependency when routinely used. When weighing, process addiction, it should be acknowledged that a person needs help and is likely suffering from more than just one or the other. Both behavioral and drug addiction cause changes in the brain that produce a high. The addicts become obsessed with replicating. However, substance addiction, continued over a period of time, may permanently damage the brain and the ability to maintain, chemical balance. So, unfortunately, some substances, though, completely destroy, neural pathways and break down receptors to the point where some neurotransmitters can no longer be released without, the aid of medication or an outside source. So the importance of this to bring to light is the long run, or in the long run, I'm sorry, both types of addiction, whether substance or behavior, need treatment. It's important to increase knowledge about rumination, for instance, and its association with stressful events. We also explore relationships even between the four different types of rumination. There's brooding, there's reflection, intrusive, and deliberate. Rumification. Sometimes it's just turning the same thought in circles without much variation. So because the act of rumination tends to consume a lot of time and emotional energy, the repetitive negative aspect of ruminating can contribute to the development of depression, or anxiety, and can worsen existing conditions too. Some people may develop even like a syndrome. If they have emotional problems, especially, or if they're undergoing, stressful events in their life. So simultaneously, it's important, though, however, that rumination is not only related to depression, but it's involved in the development, or the maintenance of a broad range of disorders, including post-traumatic stress disorder, insomnia, and even eating disorders. Therapy is a highly effective approach in treating anxiety disorders, as it addresses, rumination by challenging irrational thoughts, teaching, relaxation techniques, and promoting exposure to feared situations. All of which, can help individuals even manage or reduce their anxiety symptoms. So one main difference between intrusive thoughts and rumination is that intrusive thoughts are usually disturbing and the person often tries to resist them, while, ruminations often initially feel interesting, even indulgent. However, ruminations rarely tend to go anywhere, or lead to even new insights. So when a person who is in a depressed mood, ruminating, they are more likely to, remember more negative things that happened to them in the past. They also interpret situations in their current lives more negatively, and, they are more hopeless about the future even. The preoccupation, though, with problems also makes it difficult to move beyond, to allow, for a focus on problem solving. Even with people, with depression or anxiety, though, ruminating can contribute, regardless if they have that or not, to at least negative emotions. So you have this cluster of, multi-behavior or opportunity to become in like a cycle, right? Where the more, person ruminates, the worse they feel. Which, contributes to what? More ruminating, right? So the most important way, though, a person's past experiences, such as traumatic life events, lead to depression, was by leading a person to ruminate and blame themselves even for the problem. Depression and anxiety are not simple conditions, and there is no simple cause. We can't change a person's family history or their life experiences. However, it is possible to help a person to change the way they think and to teach them positive, coping strategies that can mitigate, and reduce stress levels, even if you're addicted to something healthy, like eating good or exercising. It's never beneficial when a behavior or a substance has control over your life. The model of addiction, I leave you, the 101, describes 5 stages that people go through when changing their behavior. Number 1 is the pre-contemplation, or not ready. There's 2, the contemplation, getting ready. 3 is preparation, or, ready. 4 would be action, and then 5 is maintenance. The model, assumes that even like every person goes through a singular process, when changing their behavior. Then there is, this trans theoretical model that describes how people overcome addiction, in the contemplative stage. For example, people are aware of their consequences of their addiction and spend time thinking about their problem. So behavior change is a complex and slow process. A person can move up, and down the stages during the recovery process. If you take a look, though, at the recovery process, there are different stages even there, too, right? One would be recovery, contemplation, which is like the pre-abstinence, right? Then there is the detox and withdrawal. Typically, it lasts about 3 months. Then 3 would be even, choice of addiction. Recovery you seek, as long as embraced with strong support and empathy, I think is huge. It could last anywhere, though, between 3 months and 1 year. Stage 4 would be like the active recovery and maintenance, which is anywhere between 1 and 5 years. So stage 5 is advanced recovery, always, 5 years and beyond. Recovery from an addiction can be a journey itself that is unique to each person. In other words, what recovery might look like for Joe may look completely different, than Mary. The biggest reason for this is because there are so many factors that come into play, such as the type of the addiction, or substance abuse, the severity of the addiction, right? And then there's the motivation level of the individual to recover. The strength of a support system is key, and, much more. But when we are looking at the path someone walks when it comes to addiction recovery, first, just active recovery alone. And understanding the stages may be helpful if you are navigating addictions, or behavior treatment anywhere in the world, really. The bottom line is that it doesn't matter what stage in the game you are. It's a conscious choice we as people get to make, and that is to either get busy living or get busy dying. And remember, Goonies never say die. It's never perfect. It's always a struggle. You just have to figure out, who you want to do the struggling with, right? Okay, guys, that's enough for today. Talk to you soon, okay? Bye.